All right, well, good morning. How's everyone doing today? My name is Ray Bivens. I'm lucky enough to be the director of Delaware State Parks, and this is one very special day for a lot of reasons. Thank goodness the weather has cooperated in a very big way, but we have just a wonderful group of people gathered here today. This whole year is special for Delaware State Parks. It's our 65th anniversary that we've been celebrating up and down the whole state. I mentioned there's some special people here. I think folks will be overwhelmed, but let's start with the volunteers for Delaware State Parks. Could you raise your hand in some way if you're a volunteer? Look at all these hands going up across the room. Our friends groups here between the Fort Miles Historical Association and the Friends of Cape Henlopen, and we also have representatives of the Delaware Seashore Foundation here today, do an outstanding job. They give us the equivalent through volunteer support of 72 full-time staff statewide just in volunteer support to our state parks. We have a total of about 140 full-time staff. So that gives you an idea of how important volunteers are to us in this park system. But it goes beyond just the volunteer hours. Our volunteers here do a wide variety of jobs. We have camp hosts in the campground that help take care of that. Here at Fort Miles, if you come to visit the orientation building, odds are you're probably going to meet one of our volunteers. A little later, if you want to go on a tour, which we'll leave over here after the ceremony of the bunker, there's a good chance a volunteer is leading that for you. And then out in the community, when it comes to the media and marketing of the fort, we have volunteers. Every Thursday and Friday, we have about 20 to 30 members called Bunker Busters that are here working on projects related to Fort Miles, doing everything, and then also the fundraising. And the fundraising is a very important thing because where we are sitting right now would have never happened if it wasn't for the volunteer support that we have for our state park system. Honestly, we probably would have passed on this whole opportunity because when someone says it's going to be about $120,000 just to transport this barrel to Delaware, that's an easy decision for a park staff when you have a $160 million capital backlog. It's awfully hard to come up with just $120,000 sitting around. That just doesn't happen. Over the last 2 years, through some creative fundraising, through grants like the Fort Miles Group with the Longwood Foundation, we've been able to put in $13 million worth of investment into our state parks, probably the most of any time in our history. So can we please give our state park staff a big round of applause? And I think we all realize that these occasions are special, but it's really the people that make them special. I go back to the day when I first saw this gun, and we made a trip, about 4 or 5 of us. I know Gary was there with us. We were on the ground. Folks from Arizona were there because Gary helped connect Arizona to try to save some of these barrels. If you saw this barrel a while ago, it had big orange marks on it about every 10 feet. The purpose of those marks was it was scheduled to be scrapped and sold, probably to China, for scrap metal and to be melted down. So the fundraising got underway. Multiple guns got saved thanks to the research and of all sorts of different people. There was one special person I want to remember that was on the ground, and I remember his excitement when he found the proof on the barrel on that gun. And it was George Contant, a historian for us who passed away a little over a week ago and has done a tremendous amount of research on this. And I know we have Jonathan, his son, with us today. Jonathan, on behalf of all of Delaware State Parks, we want to thank your family for the time. I don't even want to say paid because I know George did a lot of work outside of ours, just dedicated to Fort Delaware, this park here, Cape Henlopen, and our entire system. So thank you, George, for your service to state parks. I want to introduce some very special people. One, anyone that's been a veteran that served our country, would you please raise your hand or stand and let us thank you for your service. particular veterans that if you get a chance, I wouldn't leave here today without saying hello and meeting them. I'm sure all of those veterans have incredible stories to tell. But up in front, we have Mr. Bob Soppe, who served on the battleship Missouri. He enlisted when he was 17 years old, and he was at Tokyo Bay when he was 18 when the Japanese surrendered. Bob, could you please raise your hand? You may have been asked to spit, shine, and polish that gun a time or two. I don't know. I don't know how all that works. And then in the back, we have a gentleman that's been a key part of this project and native to Lewis that served in the 261st Coastal Artillery, Horace Knowles. Horace, would you say hello for us? So without further ado, it's my privilege to introduce a governor that's really taken a strong interest in our state park system. A governor and a first lady. First Lady Carla Markell helped co-chair our Children in Nature efforts, which that's really what parks are all about, is getting people outside to learn about our history, to learn about our parks, to paddle, to see our whole state. I had the privilege of just last week, I got to introduce Secretary Small to a new area, and his jaw dropped. He had never been to one portion of our state park system, and that really made me feel special. But we've made incredible accomplishments, and that wouldn't be possible without the support of Governor Jack Markell.
Thank you, Ray, and thanks to the entire State Parks team. And there's a reason that I love our state parks. I mean, look around. We are so blessed by this amazing state park system. Is it any wonder that Delaware has been ranked as the #1 state park system in the entire country? I do want to acknowledge, in addition to Ray, Chaz Salkin, the former director of the State Parks, who has come back with his grandson, Max, from Brooklyn. So, first of all, to the veterans who were introduced, what a thrill to have you here. I know a lot of you raised your hands, and it's great to have you. There is one other favorite son of Delaware who I think was standing over here, at least when I came up, and that is Cale Boggs, who served on the USS Missouri. Cale, where are you? There you are. So thank you. It's great to have you. I do want to introduce the legislators who are here. There are a bunch of them, and they're not all sitting together. And which I know I see him. I see Ron Gray back there. Thank you very much. And I see Representative Schmick over here, and Senator Lopez, and Representative Kenton. Representative Earl Jakes, Senator Dave McBride. The Speaker of the House is in the House today, so to speak, Pete Schwarzkopf. And are there any other legislators who are here? Let's hear it for them. Great speakers. I was telling Mr. Soppe this morning, I was watching TV as I was getting ready, and there was a Tom Brokaw special. Did you see it? This morning. It was awesome. This is the 71st anniversary of the signing of the treaty by Japan to end the war. And it was just an amazing clip. They had original footage of General MacArthur and others on that day. And you were on that ship. And Mr. Soppe was telling me he was standing up top and he saw the whole thing. And what a moment. What a moment. And for us to have this piece of history here is extraordinary. And one of the things I love best about Delaware, and there are many things I love best about Delaware. There are many things I love about this state. But the incredible advocacy of our volunteers and their persistence and their determination. And I have to say, I'm not allowed to play favorites or anything like that. But if I think about of all the fun experiences that I've had, there is no question that Fort Miles has provided a couple that are very high on the list. The renovation that you guys did not very far from here is extraordinary, and the work that you did to get this, which as Ray said was going to the scrap heap, and now it's here. For people to understand our history, for people to think about our connection to World War II, and to think about this was just one of I think 9 guns of its type that was on the USS Missouri. And I don't know where all the others are, but we in Delaware are so proud and so fortunate, not just to have it here, but that our own homegrown volunteers are the ones who made it happen. And it really is just an amazing, amazing story. And to tie that in and to connect it with what happened here at Fort Miles, you know, so many people come into this state park. Cape Henlopen State Park, by the way, has been ranked as one of the very best state parks in the entire country. We know it is a real gem for Delaware, but it has gotten national recognition. Last year, USA Today ranked the best state parks in the entire country, and Cape Henlopen was in the top 10. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, they drive in, they pass a sign for 4 miles, and they don't realize how important it was as a place of defense. And it was I think the biggest sort of go-to, you know, ready for combat space on the East Coast. This is where we are standing right here. And so here in this park where we can enjoy the amazing, beautiful, phenomenal Gordon's Pond Trail, where you can go to the fantastic beach, where you can just enjoy phenomenal hiking and see the birds. And this is like a very special place. And to be able to connect all of that beautiful nature with our history, it doesn't get any better than that. And so I couldn't be more thrilled to be here. When I, was told about this story, it didn't surprise me, Gary, that you and your team were behind making it a reality, because I have seen how hard you work, and there are plenty of people who would have looked at these bunkers and looked at sort of what you had here and say, this is just too big a job for anybody to take on, but that wasn't your attitude. And we are all, years from now, decades from now, generations from now, there are going to be visitors to this space, and they're going to be looking at Mighty Mo, and they're not going to remember the names or the faces of the people who were here on the 71st anniversary, September 2nd, 2016. But they will know that back at some point, there was a group of dedicated volunteers who decided to preserve this incredible part of our history in one of the most beautiful places, not just in Sussex County, not just in Delaware, not just in the East Coast, but in fact in the entire country. Thanks to all of you who have made this happen. And with that, I have the great pleasure of introducing a member of a veteran of the U.S. Navy, and I'm just guessing he might have been there 71 years ago on the USS. Or maybe, that's what, see, when you're a governor and you're in your last 4 months, there are all kinds of things you can say. And you can't say otherwise. He was not there that day because he was not born, but he is a proud veteran, served our country with such distinction in the military, as governor, before that in Congress, now in the United States Senate. One of the hardest, my guess is the hardest working member of our U.S. Senate, although we've got another great one in Senator Coons and a great member of Congress in John Carney. They are an amazing team, but the senior member of that team, Senator Tom Harper.
I came all this way from Wilmington just to be introduced by Jack Markell. Jack knows I do this a lot, but I think he is one of the 2 best governors we've ever had. And the other would be Pete DuPont. He has been a governor for almost 8 years. He'll go off and do other great things with his life. He's got 4 or 5 months still to go in his current job. But I just want to thank him for being just a remarkable leader for our state through a really difficult time. It's just a joy to be his colleague, and also to have a chance. Thanks for giving me a chance to serve with Rich Coons in the U.S. Senate and with John Carney in the U.S. House of Representatives. The governor's already mentioned a number of folks that have helped to make this day possible. I won't go through all of those, but you know who you are, and probably just about everyone here. And whether you happen to be a volunteer, whether you happen to be with the Historical Association, whether you happen to be someone who works as part of the team at the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, whether you happen to be a former head of State Park Division, whether you happen to be a member of the legislature, whether you happen to be a veteran or not, I just want to thank you for helping make this day possible. I want to mention a name you've probably not heard before. His name is Josh McGarrick. Josh McGarrick works at FEMA today, He is from Delaware, and when he was a member of my staff, he worked with the federal government to try to make sure that we got this piece of artillery donated to the state of Delaware and made available for us. It came here by barge, and it came here by rail. Can you imagine sitting at a rail crossing? The lights go on. The arm comes down and to make sure everybody goes over the tracks, and then you're sitting there, maybe a young guy like Mr. Sopi and his wife, and sitting there, and this like huge artillery piece goes by, and you think, what was that? What was that? Where is it going? And if they're old enough, they might know that it was a artillery piece off the Mighty Mo. My job in the Navy was the P-3 aircraft mission commander. Been about 23 years all in. Love the Navy. We have a number of Navy veterans here, and I had a chance to talk with Mr. Sopi, and told me, I said, how old were you when you enlisted? He was 17. And he was 18 years old when he ended up on the Mighty Mo. He did not operate the big artillery piece, which could fire a shell the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, 23 miles with pinpoint accuracy. Imagine that. Wow. We have the ability now to fire cruise missiles 12 or 1,300 miles from here to Key West and put them through. If we had a bad person down there we wanted to take out, we'd fire a cruise missile from here to Key West and go through the front door of the house that we want to get somebody. So we've made a little some progress in the time since then. But at the time, this was a huge factor in our winning the big war. Harry Truman, who was our president when the day that surrender occurred, used to say that the only thing that's new in the world is the history we never forgot, we never learned. The history we never learned or forgot. Think about that. The only thing new in the world is the history we never learned or forgot. It's important that we remember the history of this place and the men and women who served at that time. The world has changed a lot, hasn't it? Yeah. The world has changed a lot. We don't have guns like this on our ships anymore. We used to have wooden ships and men of steel, and today we have men and women of steel, and they are on kind of vessels throughout the world. One of them is actually going to be built, being built as we gather here today. This piece came from Norfolk, but there's a ship being built down in Newport News today that we did the keel laying about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago in Newport News, and it's going to be launched and christened by Jill Biden, our second lady, wife of our Vice President Joe Biden. And we haven't had a ship named after the state of Delaware for 100 years. 100 years. And I called Ray Mabus, who's the Secretary of the Navy, about 4 years ago, old friend, old governor. And I said to him, we haven't had a ship named after the state of Delaware for 100 years. Don't you think it might be time? Yeah. And he said, let me think about that. And he said, I'll call you back. And 6 months later, he called me back. And he said, we're about to start building a series of Virginia-class U.S. nuclear submarines, fast-attack nuclear submarines. And we'd like to name one of them after the state of Delaware. And I said, count me in. Is that good news or what? Yes. Let me close with this, if I could. Joe Biden, Vice President, former U.S. Senator, was very much involved for years, trying to make sure, as some of you know, that this military installation, which serves such a vital role in the run-up to World War II, throughout World War II, and beyond, to make sure that the land would be put to good use. And whenever all those people come together and says to one of the finest state parks in America, we need to give him a tip of that. Go ahead and give him a nice round of applause. In large part, I wanted to mention that. I just want to have a special hat here. And it says USS Delaware. For years I've signed my name. Tom Carper, USS Delaware. That means United States Senate, Delaware. And now I have a hat that says USS Delaware. And fast attack, SSN fast attack boat, 791. We'll be sailing just about a year from now. And I would just say to everybody who's played a role in making this day possible. Mr. Sopi, to you, and Neil Boggs, and to others who served our country in World War II, Korea War as well, and Vietnam and Persian Gulf, those served us in Afghanistan, Iraq, those those who are serving us today. We keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Just wanted to, for all of you, I want to just take my hat off. There you go. Hey, how are you doing? What would you say is your all-time favorite job?
Being Ray Bivens' boss, secretary of the Department of Natural Resources.
How long have you been secretary now? How many years has it been?
Feels like 30. I think it's 2.
How long have you worked at DNREC?
30 years.
30 years. Started at what, 12?
Yeah, 13 actually.
This is a good man. He's a good man, and he and Cindy have been wonderful citizens of our state and contributed in so many different ways. Thank you for helping to get us to this day, but just thank you for all you do. We're so proud of the department that you lead, and particularly the Division of Parks and Recreation. Nice round of applause for Dave.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Harper. This is really, truly a special day. And if Chris Coons, Senator Coons has been mentioned a couple times. He obviously wasn't able to join us here today. But if he were here, he might say, this is the day the Lord has made. And what a glorious morning it really is. It's incredible. It's been mentioned, what a beautiful place we are in. This park being so special. The place where the Delaware Bay meets the Atlantic Ocean, the place where land meets sea, a place where millions of memories are made on an annual basis. And for me, quite frankly, this is the place where my daughter learned how to ride a bicycle without training wheels. It's the first place she experienced nature up close and personal with a small fawn that was just off the trail. I'll never forget it. It's been 25 years ago nearly, and it's just as fresh as it was as it may have happened yesterday. So it is truly, truly a special place. And all of our great park staff have been recognized, and the volunteers as well. But we don't do this by ourselves. And so again, I just wanted to say thank you to Gary, who you're going to be hearing from in just a minute, and all of the great volunteers who are partners with us. There's some other folks I would like to introduce, and we won't get to everybody. Everybody here today is special. And you're going to hear from Ted Becker, Dennis Reardon from City Council, and Bob Morgan, I think, from City Council may be here. Chaz Salkin's been recognized. Scott Thomas, I see in the back from Southern Delaware Tourism. We are very much front and center in the tourism industry here in the state of Delaware. I don't know if Carol Everhart is here from the Rehoboth Chamber or not. I don't know. Did any folks from the Battleship New Jersey Museum? Welcome. Welcome to Delaware. Thanks for being here. We've had our spats from time to time with your great state in New Jersey. And, part of it has to do with the way that William Penn drew the arc, because we sort of own to your shoreline in the upper portion of the river there. And we've been to court a couple of times over that. We joked a few times, if things get really nasty, they've got the Battleship New Jersey sitting up there at Camden. That could be a problem. We had the Kalmar Nickel. But soon we'll have the Delaware, so that's a good thing. But you might go back and tell Governor Christie we're bulking up.
So is he.
So is he. What are you doing next week? Delaware's a great place. You ought to talk. Oh my goodness. We had great partners and contractors here, and I don't know who may be here, but from Becker Morgan, is anyone here? Thank you. Great. Wayne Sharp and Greg Weeks. Lucent Energy, Robert White and Susan Schiffner. Bellaterra Landscapes, Mike Schimmel. I don't know if you're Mike, you're here. Thank you so much. You represent me with your shirt. Thank you. And we have some artists, Paul Rendell, Clarence Lindquist, and George Wicker, some artists who have been working with us on this project. And a special recognition, thanks to the help of Senator Harper and his colleagues, we were able to start something fairly unique. Many of you have heard about our AmeriCorps program. Bringing, a lot of times these are younger folks or maybe college students into a park experience. There's a small stipend paid, and they really supplement our workforce. And it's an opportunity for them to learn about the things that we do, maybe develop a little bit of a stewardship ethic, and really help us get great work done, and for them to be able to develop some skills. And so this year we were able to start a small AmeriCorps program that focused on bringing veterans into our state and working with our state park system. And we've got a couple of folks here. They had sort of their graduation ceremony this week, and I would just like you to give them a round of applause. And thank you for your service to our country and to our state parks. It was a great experience, and we had a chance to get together and share a meal this evening and this week and talk about it. And every one of them that I talked to are coming back, and we are actually going to be able to grow the program from about 5 people to 15 veterans next year. So it's, thank you, Senator, for your support. We work with the Office of Volunteerism and the Department of Health and Social Services. Governor, thank you for your support in doing that. It's just a great partnership. So, coming back to the park, there's some great amenities. We've just repurposed or redecked the Cape and Lopin Pier. It was down for a while. We've upgraded the campground. We're getting ready to make some additional investments in the campground here in the park with new cabins, adding some rentals. The Seaside Nature Center, if you get a chance and you haven't been in there, please stop by opposite the parade ground. So it's really just a wonderful thing. And in state parks, as Ray mentioned, we are connecting families and visitors to the outdoors in an incredible way. And so not only is this experience now about our natural history, the physical characteristics and the environment, but it's about the history. And you think about the history of this place. For thousands of years, home to Native Americans, and then the settlement of this area being discovered by the Europeans, Henry Hudson sailing up Delaware Bay. And now, with the great work and interpretation, we are able to bring new life into this infrastructure that played such a vital role in World War II. And I don't know if you know or are familiar with a guy named Mike Wolfe. He's on this television show called American Pickers, and he really believes in history.
Yes.
And he has this saying that he's coined that I think is absolutely appropriate here. And it's, this place matters. And it matters at so many different levels. And obviously from seeing all of you here today, it matters in a special way to each of you that are here. And so I am just so pleased to be able to introduce Gary Ray. He was able to, and his partnership with all of the great folks that volunteer here, quite frankly, remind me and their work, their collective work, their commitment, their persistence, their never give up attitude is really reminiscent. The governor mentioned Tom Brokaw, who coined that term, the greatest generation. But quite frankly, Gary, you and your volunteers are emblematic of that same spirit. And so for that, we thank you. It's just incredible that 71 years ago today, Sergeant Pepper taught the band to play. Senator, that's for you. Senator Carper's an aficionado. But really, it's a special day to make that connection. I first met Gary probably 35 years ago. Many of you know that Gary was a long-time education administrator here in the Cape and Lopin School District. And as far as I can tell, you're still teaching, Gary. You're teaching me, you're teaching Ray, you're teaching all of us whose lives you touch. And we very much appreciate that. And the passion and the commitment and the love that you brought to the thousands of students that move through your life, you have brought to this project, and with so many of your volunteers. And for that, I want to thank you and please welcome you to the podium.
Thank you very much. Okay. We do go back 35 years. But I'd like to also tell people that Senator Carper and I go back too, way before that, because we're two boys from West Virginia. Tom Carper was born in Raleigh General Hospital in Beckley, West Virginia. 1947, I think it was, and I was born there in 1943. So we're two immigrants from West Virginia here in Delaware. Thank you, Dave, for that kind remark. Yes, today is the 71st anniversary of the end of World War II. And when we thought about bringing this barrel to Delaware, we started thinking about it about 6 years ago. We thought that it would make a great showpiece for our museum, which is right behind us. And just so you know what we're all about here at Fort Miles, we're all about doing the best World War II museum inside a World War II facility in the country. Because our museum is our facility. Most museums are buildings, $100 million buildings where you bring artifacts into, and they don't have anything to do with the event. Our museum was Battery 519 in World War II. So we're inside a 100,000-ton facility, and so us getting this gun was going to be the showpiece, really, for the entrance to our museum. And so after we're done here today, I would welcome everybody who wants to get a free tour. At 2 o'clock, the tours are paid. But from now until 2 o'clock, you're going to be free. And if you want to get your socks blown off, yes, this is beautiful. All 350 tons of it. But 100,000 tons await you underneath that sand dune. So hopefully after this event here today, you'll be able to take the same kind of tour we gave Governor Markell 2 years ago when he cut the ribbon at Gordon Spine. We gave him a tour of the museum. We're a 400-member friends group of Cape Henlopen State Park. This Cape State Park, Cape Henlopen State Park, has two friends groups, the Friends of Cape Henlopen, which do the nature part, and we do the history part. And our group has started in 2003, and Horace Knowles, who is a World War II vet of the 261st, the logo that we all wear, and you'll see our Fort Miles people around today. You go in and take a tour of the museum, they'll be inside as your docents. The tower that you see is actually Horace Knowles' 261st pin that he had on his uniform for World War II. And we lasered it and made it into our logo. So he is part of our organization and has been with us right from the beginning. Another person that's been with us from the beginning is not here today. Ray mentioned George Contant. George was the park historian who suddenly passed a couple of weeks ago, and of course he was just invaluable to us. But my co-author of the book on Fort Miles was Lee Jennings. And Lee Jennings was the original park historian. And Lee and I really started putting this project together back 20 years ago. So you're seeing the piece de resistance of 20 years of hard work. Lee passed in March of 2010. But he's with us here today because he knew that how valuable something like this would be as far as accentuating our museum. I'd like everybody who's in the Fort Miles Historical Association, to raise your hand in the audience so you can see who we are. And like I said, there were 4 of us in August of 2003 when we started the organization. Bob Frederick, myself, there's Bob, David Main, and Lee Jennings. We started the organization under Tower 3 in Dewey Beach, and we've morphed into a 400-member group. Yes, as Ray has said and Dave has said, we're a pushy bunch, but we get stuff done. And you show me somebody who's not pushy, and I'll show you somebody that can get anything done. And our main leader here, and the guy who really makes it all happen, because we're kind of organized on a committee process, kind of like the way our government's organized, is John Roberts. And I'd like John to raise his hand. He's standing right there. John is the head of our Bunker Busters. They're the men and some women who work every Thursday and Friday. Last year we gave over 14,000 volunteer hours. This year we're going to crack 15,000. And this place is just humming. Pat Bragdon, where's Pat? He's got to be here somewhere. If you could see, there he is. Pat's in the picture. Pat's picture's in today's News Journal. He's the guy. If you were here a week ago, This is a heat sink, which is 3,000 square feet of concrete. If you're out here for an hour with the sun beating down at 100 degrees, the sweat's boiling off of you. Pat was up here painting this gun in a bucket truck loaned to us by Joe Johnson of Shore Electric. He's on our board. Joe, raise your hand. I hate to tell Joe, but we also borrowed the bucket truck from Apple Electric too, but it broke down, so Joe's going to the company that moved the gun here, Dan Clark, couldn't be with us today. Dan Clark and his supervisor Grover from Lockwood Brothers, the heavy lifters from Hampton, Virginia. If you could have been here Friday, May 20th, there was a 500-ton crane lifting this 128-ton barrel into the 50-ton slide to make all this happen just back in May 20th. So you can see how hard people have been working to make this event happen on September 2nd. Our friends at Kent Construction, they're in the back. Raise your hand. There you go. Kent Construction actually built this artillery park, and Kent Construction built this pad, and they're the ones who really put the pilings. This big gun here weighs 350 tons, and there are 30 pilings going down 20 feet to support the weight of this gun. So we have a full artillery park here. And just so you know, I mean, little old Delaware, you know, I'm a native West Virginian, so is Tom. We're adopted Delawareans. You get outside of Delaware, a lot of people don't know we exist. You know, they say Delaware kind of thing, you know. I was married in Columbus, Ohio, and I had a hard time convincing the clerk in Columbus that I was from Delaware, Delaware, and not Delaware, Ohio. But now we're on the map. This artillery park and our museum put us on the World War II history map, and we're very, very proud of it. If you get this month's edition of World War II magazine, which is an international magazine, and go to page 13, you'll see our picture of this gun being installed. So a lot of times we don't talk about what we've got because we're on top of it. But people now know what, at least in Fort Miles, know about this gun and know about World War II history in terms of what you can see in Cape Henlopen State Park. And just like Soppe family's here today with Mr. Soppe, we've got other World War II veterans that can't get out to Pearl Harbor, but they can come here. And he was here with this barrel on that day, September 2nd, 1945, when the Japanese delegation surrendered to General MacArthur. Just so you know what our plans are for this facility, you can't do it today, but as you exit here today to take a tour, you look over to your left, our new entrance is going to be right here on what we call the northwest entrance. We're going to have a glass door, so people will come up through our artillery park, visit this gun, and then go inside our museum. Our museum is going to start having regular hours probably next year. Right now we do tours, and our tours are run by both our docents and our state park staff. And quite frankly, we were all volunteers. The state of Delaware owns this gun. We laughed with Chaz Salkin when we talked to Chaz about getting the gun. And Chaz said, "What do you mean I'm going to own a big 16-inch gun?" I said, "Yes, Chaz, you're going to be the biggest gun of any Delaware State Park director, or any state park director in the country. You can shoot them out of the water because they're not going to own it." So we own this gun. Delaware State Parks owns it. We worked, as Ray mentioned, we worked with the state of Arizona and other states to save the 3 remaining barrels. So if you visit Arizona's website, you can see the beautiful memorial they've done to their World War II dead that sacrificed their lives in World War II outside of Leg Hall in Phoenix, and we had a hand helping them do that. And that's what we want to do here. Ultimately, we want to work with Dick Carter and others, our friends at Leg Hall, who help us do this project too, because we supply the volunteer grunt, but they supply a bunch of the other effort. We want to work to make this a memorial area for the 812 Delawareans who were killed during World War II to make the maximum sacrifice. So that's down the road. That's our plan. So, finally, I want to thank Bellaterra. Mike Schimmel is here. Bellaterra has done all the lights around here. They've done all the landscaping. We charge Bellaterra with coming up with a light scheme like the Indian River Bridge. If you've been over the Inlet Bridge at night, the light, the blue lights, the cobalt lights come on around this. They're out here, so you can be out in the boat and see this beautiful artillery park and this beautiful gun. We're learning how to program the lights now. Mike guarantees me that we'll know how to do 30,000 different light shows at night. So it's going to be quite spectacular. So once again, I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank the Fort Myers Historical Association. I want to thank the continuing support we've had from the governor and Senator Carper's office, the town of Lewis, and Mayor Becker, who I'm going to introduce in just a second, and all of our legislators. Every legislator you see here has supported us in one way or another, both actively and obviously with coming in and seeing what we're all about. So it's a total team effort. And John and the Bunker Busters, we talk about this all the time. It's total team. It's just not one person. Yes, we've got spear tips out there, but it's the team. And without further introduction, I'd like to introduce Nick Carter. Nick is the man who helped us bring the barrel here. Nick co-chaired the fundraising committee. And we found the barrel on the ground in St. Julian's Creek, which is a Superfund annex of Norfolk Naval Base. We found it. One of our engineer friends at Dahlgren found it for us. We wanted to put a plan together to raise $155,000. In May of 2011, we had $0. 6 months later, we had $155,000. All private money. Not one penny of it was taxpayer money. And Nick was one of the prime movers for making that happen. He was with us at the beginning, and he's here enjoying this moment with us. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nick Carter.
You know, if Lee Jennings were here today, he would have this barrel loaded with probably 2 or 3 bags of gunpowder, and he would fire one shot. And I have a special gift for Gary. This is a plank from the USS Missouri. When they recommissioned her in 1986, during the ceremony, one of my classmates gave it to me, and I'm here to present it to Gary. I stand here proudly knowing that I played a small role in preserving an important part of the United States naval history, but also in the history of Fort Miles, and more importantly, the future of Fort Miles, in establishing a world-class museum on an authentic site right here at Cape Henlopen. My family's history and heritage growing up here in Lewis and our Naval Academy history inspired me to get involved with the fundraising event. My grandfather graduated from the Naval Academy in 1909, served during World War I on battleships. He was called back to active duty in World War II and became the commanding officer of the Harbor Entrance Control Post here in Cape Henlopen. My father was in the class of 1942, and he was commissioned early as an ensign right after the attack on Pearl Harbor. He was then stationed in Cape May aboard the Eagle boat, and they patrolled the mouth of the Delaware Bay looking for German U-boats. I graduated in 1970 and served in Vietnam providing gunfire support. I had 2 tours in Vietnam. My sincere appreciation goes out to the numerous people that were involved in the fundraising event. My co-chair, Bill Manthorpe, the class of 1955. He sits right over here. Bill, if you would raise your hand. My fellow alumni from the Naval Academy who I reached out to, the USS Missouri Foundation I reached out to, even the state of Missouri I reached out to. Some of the larger donors included the General Motors Foundation. At that time, the chief executive officer was a man by the name of Dan Ackerson, and he was a classmate of mine at the Naval Academy. I called him twice. His secretary finally put me through. I told him what the project was, and he said, "No problem, Nick, how much do you need?" I told him we needed about $150,000, and he said, "Well, I'll send you a check for $25,000. And we got the check, I think, in about probably within a week.
$25,000.
$5,000 came from the general fund. So I will reach out to Dan again for the next funding for the Fort Miles Museum. The other large donors were the Crystal Trust, M&T Bank, and various other organizations and numerous individuals. These folks raised the money to transport this barrel. Now, this barrel weighed, I've heard 116, 120, and 128 tons. And it was located in the, what was it called? St. Julian's Creek Annex down in Virginia. So we had to get it, you know, scrap, the schedule for scrap, I think we got it 2 days before it was ready to be cut up. The money came in, and we got down there in time to salvage the gun. It had to be put on trucks, barges across the Chesapeake Bay, back on a rail car, came up to Georgetown, transferred again from Georgetown, and arrived here, came across the Lewis Canal, and arrived here at Fort Miles. And I'd like to give my wife Lori credit for sort of coordinating this incredible logistic, and it was a huge logistic operation to get that barrel from Virginia to Delaware. The Mighty Mo Barrel 371, which we stand under today, it's been preserved by the Fort Miles Historical Society, a group of volunteers. And I compliment them and commend them for their dedication and their commitment to this preservation. I hope that all of you will be a part of the new phase of the Fort Miles Museum. And I would like to introduce the Mayor of Lewis, Mayor Ted Becker.
Ted is the mayor, for those of you who are from other states, Ted is the mayor of the first town in the first state. The first town in the first state. And over 300 years ago, the Dutch settled this place. Over 300 years ago, the British got tired of the Dutch being here. They came in and they burned the town of Lewis to the ground. And at the end of the night, when the sun came up the next day, there was one house still standing. And it's called the Rivers Gold House. It's believed to be one of the longest, oldest museum houses in America. It's the southernmost tip of a national park. As we celebrate today, the 71st anniversary of the surrender of the Japanese on Missouri, this year we're celebrating America's best idea, and that is a national park. It's part of our national park. It runs all the way from Wilmington, Delaware, where the first Swedes and Finns came ashore 378 years ago after sailing right by this point, 378 years ago, on their way to what is now Wilmington, Delaware, where they established the colony of Sweden. I'm going to go to celebrate another part of our national park on the other side of this county. I just want to say thanks. It's great to be with all of you. I apologize for losing like this. Ladies and gentlemen, a great man.
Thanks, Senator Carper, for your very kind remarks. It is indeed a pleasure to be a mayor of this town. And I'm very fortunate to actually live across the street from the Rives Holt House in downtown Lewis. It's very special to me. I see it every morning as I leave my front door. I'd like to thank Governor Markell and Senator Carper, as well as all the elected officials for gathering here today as this artillery park in the Mighty Mo becomes a reality that was envisioned by the thousands or the hundreds of volunteers that made up the Fort Miles Historical Association. It was their vision that led to the creation of this fantastic tribute to the thousands of dedicated men and women who served during World War II. A collection of armaments now on display tells an amazing story of the defense that was developed and put to use during World War II. I first visited this park in 1978 as Cape Pendleton State Park. I was an active duty Army officer stationed in Washington, D.C., and I was aware that the Military District of Washington maintained Fort Miles as a recreation facility for the use of men and women who were stationed in Washington, D.C. It was a great place to come, but there was no evidence of the story that's being told here today. You walked down the road here and went to the beach, and in fact, much of the buildings that you see now and this bunker were totally locked up or falling apart. So what has happened here is metamorphic. It is really amazing what has happened. And over the past 38 years, much of this park, until Gary and his group and the DNREC and the state park got together, went unnoticed by visitors here. We really have seen a tremendous change in this area. The efforts of the volunteers to restore and reopen and tell the story about the importance of this park and the fort for the Mid-Atlantic region and the nation is incredible. The assistance of the governor and DENREC and many state legislatures was instrumental in helping to bring all of this to reality. Without the commitment of so many, these efforts to tell the story and the role that Delaware played, or this fort played, in World War II would have never happened. In recent years, there's been an effort throughout this country to tell the story about World War II, and I believe this artillery park will lead as one of the prime examples of telling that story for future generations. I think we've heard that from every speaker who's spoken here this morning. Lewis has long enjoyed a reputation of being an important part of the establishment of the state, and the tales of the War of 1812 have been told for years. But prior to the establishment of the Fort Miles Association, the role during World War II of this area was only known in folklore, which was destined to be lost as this generation passed on. The creation of this artillery park and the completion of the museum will ensure that the story will live for future generations who will be able to visit and gain better understanding of what happened on the site and how it relates to the safeguarding of the Mid-Atlantic and the nation. The community and the entire area are already an important part of the tourism-based economy that this state enjoys. The creation of this artillery park is yet another layer of why this is so much more than just another beach community. History and eco-based tourism are two of the most rapidly expanding areas of tourism throughout the country. And this area is no slouch when it comes to that. We have so much history here, and this just brings it forward to the current time. It's unbelievable. While the Cape Pendleton State Park has been an extremely popular space for beaches and nature, I'm certain this installation will have its own draw. I look forward to the artillery park being a must-see stop for everyone who comes to visit the state. And I thank you all for being here today. I thank Gary and all the volunteers who've done so much to make this happen. Thank you, Governor Markell.
All right, you can't do some kind of event like this without some big scissors, so don't worry, we have those here. I think I saw Senator Lavelle sneak into the back somewhere. Thank you, Senator Lavelle, for your support coming down. And State Parks has really done a great job of kind of celebrating some of these special occasions. So, would you like to say something? Come on up, please do.
Got it?
Thank you. I don't know where Mike is, but I want to thank Mike and the association for inviting me here. It's been a pleasure. Hi, Mike. I promised Mike that I wouldn't talk more than an hour and a half. But the reason I'm here and the reason I'm talking, a lot of you people were here the last time that we had this meeting, and they asked me to talk, and I did. And then my buddy that was on the ship, we never met, but he lives here in Denver, so